Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in today. So I wanted to hop on and, I hopped on before after Spider-Man No Way Home and I gave a spoiler-free review of kind of my thoughts on the movie and um, I was planning on doing that with Doctor Strange. I wanted to give my initial thoughts on the movie and I wanted to keep it kind of spoiler-free because I felt like I don't really like putting the spoilers out there in the world, even though I know they're all over the place. And um, I feel like I don't want anybody to accidentally stumble into them because of me or something. I know how important it is for me to not be spoiled about things, so I try not to do that. However, I can't. I feel like I can't really talk about this movie without spoiling the movie. Some of the main central plot points of the movie are spoilers. Like they're things that I didn't have any clue were going to happen going into the movie. So I'm going to try and kind of stream of consciousness my way through this and give my initial thoughts on the movie. Um, and just, I'm going to put it in the thumbnail. I'm going to put it in the title. I'm going to put it everywhere I can think to put it. But this is going to be full of spoilers. So if you want to go into Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, spoiler free, please, go watch something else. I won't be offended. Please do. And then, after you get a chance to see it, come back here and, check out what I had to say and, leave me your thoughts down below in the comment section if you have anything you want to add, or maybe you can clarify some points that I wasn't really clear about. There's going to be some things I go through in here that I'm confused about. I don't really understand why they made some of the choices they did. There were parts of the movie I liked. But I don't want this to come off as, one of the things I said when I started this channel was I want to keep things positive. I think that's one of the things that fandom has trouble with is getting bogged down in, negativity. And then, so I'm going to, I want to keep as much of this as positive as I can. And so maybe I'll start with the positives. I felt like the movie had some really good points. Doctor Strange's arc in the movie is really good and emotionally touching by the end of it. By the end of it, like they got me. Like he has a line that he says to Christine at the end of the movie, and I was just like, yeah, wow, that's intense. And so that there was stuff with Doctor Strange I really liked. America, the new superhero that they introduced, she was great. She had some good stuff. I wish she would have had a more fleshed out backstory. Her backstory is kind of given to you in kind of um, a real quick snippet, and I feel maybe it would have resonated a little more emotionally had she either been introduced in like her own TV show or she been like in maybe a like I don't know if this would have been instead of just Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, it would have been Doctor Strange and America Chavez, I think is her last name, in the Multiverse of Madness, then that would have, maybe given them more room to give her a better introduction. Um, but it was fine. It was fine for what it was. It worked as a good explanation for her backstory and why she is the way she is, why her personality developed the way it is, and then the things that she cares about. Um, so all that was good. I'm trying to think of like Wong. Wong was excellent. Um, Comatage was cool. It was cool to be back there. It was cool to see. It was cool to see them kind of at one point they bring in some of the other sanctums from across the world, and it was cool to see how global the sorcerers really are. Um, the multiverse stuff. We get introduced to some Marvel characters that I kind of thought might be still on the shelf for a little bit longer. One that was kind of spoiled by the trailers. I don't know why they made it hidden in the trailers, but not really hidden because the actor that it turned out to be was exactly who everybody knew it was from the trailer. So I don't know why I'm I guess I'm trying to avoid as many spoilers as possible, just again, because I don't want to spoil it for anybody that might stumble upon this and later on regret having found the spoilers. So that was good. The introduction of some of those characters was really cool. Um, they gave this away in a trailer. Peggy Carter's back in it as Captain Carter, which was it was cool to see her. It was cool to see her and doing her superhero thing, and I hope it's not the last time we see her. Although, based upon the events of this movie, it's the last time we see that version of her. Hopefully, we get her as Captain Carter in maybe another universe somewhere down the line. Um, so yeah, there was some really good stuff in it. I told a friend of mine like if you it was actually my buddy Rob Bifo who I've done chats with on his channel. We were talking and I said, if this movie would have been the exact same movie and you would have swapped like maybe Mephisto in as the big bad instead of who the big bad ultimately was, like I think this movie would have jumped from like a 3 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10. Like it was a really good solid Marvel movie in some respects. In other respects it was just bad. It was really bad, and there was some character development stuff that just came out of left field. I felt like, um, and that's maybe a little hyperbolic. It didn't technically come out of left field, but it wasn't developed. It didn't naturally progress. It was like, hey, we need to make this character a bad person now, so that's it. They're bad. Um, and I guess I'll just jump into it. So my biggest issue with the movie was what ultimately happened with Scarlet Witch, with Wanda Maximoff. Anybody that, if again, I'm gonna last time like spoilers. This is spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie, if you care about Wanda as a character, if you care about the Scarlet Witch and where she was going coming out of um, WandaVision, like shut off the video. This is your chance right here. All you have to do is click that little X or stop and like leave and go see the movie. Go see the movie and then come back. All right. I feel like I've done as much as I can. So, um, Wanda, like, she takes a hit in this movie. She ends up being the bad guy. There's the scene in the trailer that, if you've seen the trailers where Doctor Strange goes to recruit her and he's like, hey, we'll get you back on the lunchbox and asks her what she knows about the multiverse. And they're in this beautiful apple orchard. And, she's talking to him about, I've kind of settled in here and stuff. And anyway, it turns out that scene isn't really taking place in an apple orchard. It's taking place in this kind of apocalyptic, I can say that word, apocalyptic kind of world that she's created, and um, she has been taken over by the Darkhold, or sort of. That's where some of my confusion comes in. We'll get to that. And a caveat to that is if she takes her power, she kills her. So Wanda's prepared to kill this girl to take her powers so that she can travel to a universe to be with her children. And it even gets brought up later on. Somebody questions, well, what about the Wanda in the universe that you go to? What about her? And, are you going to take over another version of you's life just to be with your children? And she says, basically, yes, that's what's going to happen. She also wants the power for America Chavez to travel between multiverses in order to, in case something were to happen with her children, because it is an infinite number of multiverses, because there's any contingency you can think of out there could happen. She feels like she needs that power so that if one of her children gets sick, being an infinite universe, there is a universe in which there is a cure for her child's sickness. So she needs the power to be able in the future, if necessary, be able to travel to whatever universe to take care of her children in whatever ways are needed. Now, that justification holds. Okay, I get that. I understand that. But the justification also holds then that there is a universe in which she can go be with her kids that have lost their mother, or that she can go be with, like, one of the infinite universes. She has her children and her children go off, and or she goes off as a superhero, as a Scarlet Witch, to fight a battle somewhere, and she dies. And then all she has to do is go in, and when that Wanda dies, show up and be like, hey, look, I'm not your people's Wanda, but these kids shouldn't grow up without their mother. I lost my children. allow me to take her place in your universe. And that works. Like she could easily swap herself in and still get her children back and still, and because it's infinite, that kind of thing works. Now she doesn't have the power to cure her children if they do get sick, but I feel like if she approached America Chavez and was like, look, I'm going to reach out to you in case something happens with my kids, I'm going to need your help later down the road, like, are you cool with that? America Chavez seems like a pretty decent person in this universe, or this version of her. I think she'd be like, yeah, Wanda, like, I'm with that. I think she would much rather have that be the outcome than have Scarlet Witch attacking her and trying to kill her, which is what happens. So this is all kind of, I feel like I've kind of lost track of where I was going, but and that's how I feel. I feel like this movie has thrown my thoughts all in disarray. Like I don't know, I don't know, I, you know, I'm this isn't this hasn't this isn't happening. Trying to think of the best way to say this. I haven't like lost faith in the Marvel universe yet. Like they've done something incredible. Like the for me the Infinity Saga was perfect. There wasn't a misstep along the way. I know people didn't think some movies were as good as others, but for me they were all good. They were all good movies, and the way they build upon each other and stuff, it was all like there wasn't, I don't think there was ever a character that did something that I was like, well, that doesn't make sense, why would they do that? Or there wasn't ever like, everything just worked, it clicked perfectly. And I know you can't do this forever, you can't have these serialized stories and have them go on and on and on and never have a hiccup here or there, never have a time where something doesn't quite work for the audience. And unfortunately, this movie was that for me, and Wanda in this movie particular was that for me. So anyway, getting back to it, Wanda is the bad guy. She's after America Chavez. She's trying to kill her to take her powers, or trying to take her powers, which will kill her. There's a small, difference there, but there is a difference. Um, and it turns out that like Wanda gets the Darkhold, and she's using the Darkhold to do all these bad things to try and get America, and the Darkhold ends up getting destroyed. And then so Wanda's, in a rage because of that, and she starts tormenting innocent people at Comitage to convince Wong to show her how to get the Darkhold back, like how to get the spells in it that she needs to get to America Chavez. Because one thing I didn't explain was that America Chavez and Doctor Strange escape into the multiverse to get away from Wanda. So Wong takes her to this temple where apparently the Darkhold is just a transcription of these original spells that had been carved into stone in this temple. And you get to this temple, Scarlet Witch, Wanda makes Wong take her to this temple, and you get to this temple and you find out that this temple is like a shrine. Wanda calls it a throne to her. It's her temple. There's a statue there of her. Now, not her face, but the outline of the Scarlet Witch is enshrined at this temple, along with all the Darkhold spells. Um, so you're told in the beginning of the movie that Wanda has gone bad because she's using the Darkhold, and Darkhold has infected her, and she's bad because of the Darkhold. But then you find out the Darkhold is from her. It's from the Scarlet Witch. She is the embodiment or what or something of the Darkhold, and that's where I'm confused. I don't know. So was it really Wanda being bad, or was it the Darkhold really? There seems to be a very small chance that this was not just Wanda, just that the character of Wanda is not inherently just a bad character, the Scarlet Witch, because she is quote unquote, and Agatha tells her at the end of WandaVision, you are the Scarlet Witch. Um, Unless the Scarlet Witch is like the Phoenix Force, and the Scarlet Witch inhabits people throughout time and space, but none of that actually we've been told yet. None of that has been explained, and so the best explanation for this is Wanda is just bad, and I don't like that, because at the end of WandaVision, I love the WandaVision. And Wanda goes through an arc in that. She is a broken down person at the beginning of that movie. She has lost her brother, she's lost her family, she's lost Vision, the love of her life, and her mind breaks, and she creates this world, and she, unfortunately, there are victims of this break, of this mental break that she has in the town that she's in, and they're all entrapped and enslaved. And at the end of it, she goes through a journey in that show, and at the end of it, she comes to realize that she can't do this. She can't keep these people enslaved just for her benefit. That she can't be the bad guy just to get what she wants. And she gives up Vision. She gives up her children because she knows it's wrong. She knows that that's not the way to do it. And she gives that all up. And she tells Monica at the end of the series, like, I don't know how to control these powers, but I need to figure this out. I'm going to go figure this out. And she goes off on her own. And at the very end of that series, the last in credit scene is her in two personas. There's the her that's outside at the cabin, kind of drinking her coffee, going about her daily life, kind of content. And then there's the Scarlet Witch persona that's actually reading the Darkhold, and it looks like she's kind of there's a scene in this movie where she's kind of floating there, and she's got all the red orbs spinning around her, and it's like she's looking at the multiverse. Well, that scene also happened at the end of WandaVision, in this scene I'm talking about there at the cabin. And the last thing you hear at the end of WandaVision is you hear her children cry out for help. Mom, help us. Um, which implies that her children actually need help, that needs to go find them and help them. And I kind of expected in this movie to be the next step of that journey, her redemption of getting back into um, the role of a hero, of her helping Doctor Strange and finding her spot and coming, understanding her power. Maybe Doctor Strange would help her with her power. Maybe we find out that while she was at the cabin, she learned ways to manipulate her power or control it the way that she wanted to. Um, the last thing I expected was to find out that because she used the Darkhold, she's now just bad. And there's no resolution to the mom help thing. Like, her kids aren't out there asking for her help. She has just decided she's going to go take her kids from another Wanda, to be, you know, to put not too fine a point on it. She's going to kill another Wanda to take her kids. Um, so there's a disconnect there between the end of what the character went through at Wanda and WandaVision, and then where she is at the beginning of this movie. And I know the easy explanation is the Darkhold. She was infected by the Darkhold. The Darkhold's bad. It took her over, and that's why she's bad in this. But that really just didn't work for me. That seems like a very cheap explanation for them just deciding that they wanted Wanda to be bad. I feel like they missed some steps along the way. We needed to see her turn to the dark side, for lack of a better way to put it. Not for it to just be a one kind of flash in the pan, oh, no, now she's bad type deal. So I don't know. I didn't like that. I didn't like the way that they just kind of flipped the switch on her with that. And at the end of the movie, we're ultimately left with Wanda. She does sacrifice herself. She does she does end up sacrificing herself at the end to, according to Doctor Strange, destroy all the Darkholds and all the multiverses, which is a significant sacrifice. Um, I'm not quite sure it redeems her. And I'm to be honest, I'm not quite sure she's dead. There's this part of me that, we don't see a body, so there's this part of me that, maybe I'm naive, maybe I'm whatever, but I'm so disheartened with the way that she was portrayed and the way this movie, the direction they took her character, that I just can't bring myself to believe that this is the end for her, that this is ultimately where they're going to leave her character. There needed to be a step between the end of WandaVision and where Wanda is in this movie, where we see the Darkhold kind of take her over. Um, Jean Grey in the Phoenix Saga didn't just start destroying planets and universes, like or galaxies. Like, you saw Jean kind of fight with the Phoenix Force and fight with that power, and then she ultimately became the Phoenix, the embodiment of the Phoenix. Um, this wasn't that. This was just, oh, by the way, Wanda's bad now. You know how she came out of, you know, all the sacrifices she went through in WandaVision? Yeah, it was just for show because she's actually a bad guy now. And like, I don't know. I don't know. I had a hard time with it. Still am. So if you felt the same as I did, I'd love to, you know, hear your thoughts on it. Please let me know in the comments below. If you think if I missed something, if I missed something major, if I was so wrapped up in my disillusionment with Wanda being the bad guy in the movie, and maybe there was better justification for it. Maybe there was a better rationale for it that I just didn't pick up on. Please point that out to me. Let me know. I'd love somebody, I would love more than anything in the world for somebody to come along and be like, no, no, wait, you missed this, or no, no, no. Don't you, this part happened. You need to go back and watch it again because if you watch this scene, it shows that like it wasn't Wanda or whatever. And there is a scene where a character, well, I'm just gonna say it, Professor X is in the movie. The thing I was trying to avoid saying at the beginning, you know, that was Patrick Stewart's voice in the trailer. He comes back and reprises his role as Professor X, and he's apparently Professor X in a world where um, it's kind of like the 90s X-Men cartoon, but like in real life. Like, I'm not sure how to explain that. It's a weird way of explaining that. But they play like you hear the 90s X-Men cartoon theme play when he comes out in his chair and he's in the chair from the show. And like, it's so cool. Like that, like that's the kind of stuff that was so cool and it was so fun to see. Um, but I had a hard time really enjoying it because of what they were doing to Wanda all along the way. Anyway, so Professor X is in it, and Professor X goes into Wanda's head at one point, and he finds um, he finds Wanda, our Wanda, I guess, trapped under some rubble, and i- the implication is that Wanda is in there, but she's buried, and like so maybe that's the justification. Maybe our Wanda is in there and she was just taken over by the Darkhold. Um, but they don't. Then why does the Darkhold care about getting Wanda's children? If it's the Darkhold that's taken hold of her, why does the Darkhold care about taking her or getting her children back? Like it seems like a weird justification for the Darkhold. I could see the Darkhold going after America Chavez to get her multiverse power because she wants to be able to travel between multiverses. The other thing I'm confused about is like, who is the Scarlet Witch? There has been no explanation about what exactly the Scarlet Witch is. Is the Scarlet Witch the entity that the demon that came and wrote and carved the spells for the Darkhold into this temple that they go to, um, or is the Scarlet Witch some other entity? It's very poorly explained as to what exactly is going on. Um, and Marvel up until this point hasn't done things poorly. Like they've allowed things to progress and become natural extensions. Even when they're bad. Like I don't think a lot of people were happy with the way that Iron Man approached, you know, Civil War and the subsequent things that he did coming out of Civil War. But ultimately, like they made sense. They made sense for the character. They made sense in like uh, you know, it wasn't out of left field what he did. And ultimately, he got a very heroic sacrifice at the end of Endgame for his character. It completed an amazing character arc for that version of Iron Man. And we're not getting that with Wanda. If this is truly the end of Wanda as it's implied, um, it was just the story of a hero falling. And that was it. Like there is no like the fact that she gets rid of all the Darkholds and all the universes like doesn't, and even that doesn't even really work because the temples are still there. The temples that the Darkhold is just a transcription of spells that are in this temple that exists. So if the temple still exists, she just got rid of a bunch of books. Like it's I don't know. the movie's a mess when it comes to that. The holes in logic and the plot holes that exist are just numerous. So I can't even talk myself into understanding um, the way it works. So, and basically the whole premise of the movie then is that Wanda has gone bad because of the grief of losing her children and Vision. Um, she can't handle living in a world that doesn't have them, and so she's going to go find a universe that does and be with them, which is all well and good and works, except for the fact that that's the exact same premise of the show WandaVision. They just recycled the exact same motivations and rationale and everything, and they had wrapped it up so much better in WandaVision. I really don't understand the reasoning for this beyond the Darkhold. The Darkhold is the only part about this whole thing that is any different. Now that they can say she's been infected by the Darkhold, I wish they had just called it the Dark Side. I know it comes from the comics, and so I know they're just using the comic verbiage. But it would be so much easier to just say Dark Side. Plus, it's all owned by Disney now, right? So they could easily swap those in and out. Anyway, that aside, so now she's taken over by the Darkhold, and as someone that likes these characters and stuff, I'm you know, that's some of the best comic book stories are the stories about heroes that fall and then are redeemed. Um, Demon in a Bottle with Iron Man. We talked about Jean Grey and the Phoenix Force and the Dark Phoenix saga. I'm trying to think like DC's versions of heroes gone bad. The only one that's coming to mind right now is Heroes in Crisis with Wally West, but that wasn't good. So like I didn't care for that. But oh, Hal Jordan, perfect example. Hal Jordan goes bad in the Twilight. Was it the Twilight Saga? Was that actually the name of that story arc? Um, anyway, we went bad and destroyed the Green Lantern Corps, and we got Kyle Rayner back in the '90s. Um, Great story, and ultimately Hal gets redeemed later on. And he comes back and he's better than ever as the Green Lantern and Green Lantern Rebirth. Like it led to some of the best Green Lantern stories ever. So that idea of a hero falling but then being redeemed, I can go along for that. That's great. And they did it so great in WandaVision, where you get to see Wanda have this break and create this town and all the stuff I covered earlier. Um, and then she comes out of it and she knows what she's done. She understands what she's done. She understands it's not right, and she gives that all up. And then just to recycle that for the whole crux of why she does what she does in this movie, it just felt, sorry to say, it felt lazy. That doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. The Darkhold doesn't want anything. Like if the Darkhold was an entity, if the Scarlet Witch was an entity that took her over, then maybe you could do it that way, which is kind of implied with the Professor X part where she's buried under rubble, but I don't know. It's all told in such a very confusing way that if that is true, if the Darkhold has taken over, if the Darkhold is an entity and is inherently part of the Scarlet Witch and it's taken over Wanda, they needed to explain that a lot more clearly. And they needed to explain what the Darkhold is, what its relationship to the Scarlet Witch is, what their relationship to Wanda is, and whereabouts Wanda became the Scarlet Witch, became the Darkhold, and all that. Like it's just as far as an actual narrative, it just doesn't flow. It doesn't make sense. Yeah. So that's Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I hope you enjoyed it. I really do, because there's nothing worse, and I'm going through it right now. Coming out of a movie you really had a lot of hope for and you were excited about, and having it not live up to those expectations, or having it not even be enjoyable in a lot of ways for you. I'll touch upon the last thing I'll touch upon is that. We do get, since we're talking spoilers, I may as well give my thoughts on this since I've already done it with Patrick Stewart's Professor X. you get to see Captain Carter. I mentioned earlier, she was in the trailer though, and you get to see the first appearance of the Fantastic Four in an MCU movie, and that's in the form of John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic, and it's awesome. Like I loved it. There's a line earlier in the movie where Christine, when they're Doctor Strange and America Chavez have escaped, and they're on this alternate Earth where the Illuminati exists. And, you've seen the trailers, the Illuminati's part of it, and Christine name drops Baxter. He calls it the Baxter Foundation, I think, instead of but everybody knows the Baxter Building from Fantastic Four. Um, their headquarters. And so when she says Baxter, I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. Like the Fantastic Four, we're getting them. This is going to be great. Um, and then John Krasinski comes out and he's Mr. Fantastic and it's awesome. Um, but then he gets killed. He gets off along with the rest of the Illuminati. They're all taken out, wiped out. Professor X wiped out. This version of Professor X, I should say, wiped out. The rest of the Captain Carter wiped out. So I don't know if that's just a tease, like if John Krasinski was just going to, do this cameo in this movie, and then we're going to get a different Fantastic Four in the MCU later on. It's really, I'm really confused about how that's going to work. The whole multiverse thing is very weird too, because like they use Benedict Cumberbatch to play every version of Doctor Strange that we ever meet. Um, but they use different actors, coming out of No Way Home. We know that every version of Peter Parker throughout the multiverse is not Tobey Maguire, it's not Andrew Garfield, it's not Tom Holland. There's different actors so that Peter Parker looks different in different universes. Benedict Cumberbatch being the same Doctor Strange means that he doesn't look different through different universes. Now we've only seen a handful of Doctor Stranges, so maybe that's just a coincidence that those ones do line up. Um, you knew this was coming. You knew when they started the multiverse stuff that it was going to leave itself open to holes. And I can deal with the fact that Benedict Cumberbatch is always Doctor Strange, that Doctor Strange always looks like Benedict Cumberbatch, and that Peter Parker doesn't always look like Tom Holland or Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield. I can, okay, whatever. I can roll with those punches and stuff. But there's some logic gaps that are going there, and then it just makes it confusing. It makes it not confusing. It makes it hard going forward to be like, well, so will John Krasinski come back when we do finally get the Fantastic Four movie in our Earth? Um, by the way, I should say that they do designate our MCU, our Earth that we've been watching, the 616 MCU, just as the comics do. They I can't remember, 818 might be the name of the Earth that they go to in the movie. But anyway, ours does get name dropped as 616, so it does follow with the comics canon as far as that goes. Um, so anyway, jumping back, I don't know. I would love to see. Fans have been casting John Krasinski and Emily Blunt as Reed Richards and Stu Storm for years now, and so it was a cool payoff in that respect. But it also was like it might just be a tease, and coming into whatever Fantastic Four movie they do, they may completely recast it because there aren't really rules about how this stuff works. And clearly, as was the case with Spider-Man and Doctor Strange being different, in the case of Spider-Man, different actors, and Doctor Strange being the same actor. So, and that's not to say, again, it's an infinite universe. Infinite means anything's possible. There's every iteration ever. Heck, I am Doctor Strange in one of those universes because it's infinite. Um, there is no end. Anything you can think happens. So, um, yeah, go see the movie, please. Like I don't want to ruin anybody's experience. I don't want you to not go see it just because I had issues with it. Maybe you'll go and you'll, like I said, you'll catch something that I didn't like or that I didn't pick up on, and you'll end up really enjoying it. So. I should probably end on a positive note. So, but yeah, there's an awesome battle scene between Scarlet Witch and the Illuminati. Like Wanda goes hard at them. Like you get Wanda's unleashed, Scarlet Witch unleashed. Whatever the Scarlet Witch actually is, we don't know. Um, some really cool battle scenes. Doctor Strange, like some of the stuff he does at the end to resolve the conflict, the growth of his character. Again, you're getting great growth for Doctor Strange. Like he's grown. Like we've seen him grow along the way. But there are some things that like they talk about his need to always be the one holding the knife, as they say, the one to be in charge, the one that he can't give up that control, and he kind of learns to do that in this movie, which is pretty cool. And so he does get some really cool character growth while still being the Doctor Strange that we know. So. Um, Sam Raimi comes back. It's a Sam Raimi movie. There's some very Sam Raimi parts of this movie, including a physical comedy gag with Bruce Campbell. So you know, if you're anybody that knows Sam Raimi flicks and knows his Bruce Campbell's relationship, like you shouldn't have been. I was surprised when he showed up, but I was like, oh, you idiot! Of course he's going to show up. It's a Sam Raimi flick. Very cool. Go see that. I won't spoil that, even though it's just a silly thing. Um, so yeah, thanks for tuning in. I've got like right here. I've got my Iron Man, Spider-Man, Homecoming Iron Man. I need to get him out. I need to get my review done on him. I've got underneath him. I've got my Bucky, Winter Soldier. Like I need to get him out. I need to get these guys out and get these reviews done on them. Get them set up. So anyway, thanks for tuning in, you guys. Hopefully you'll see me sooner rather than later. And take care. Oh, and just one last thing, like, thank you for sticking around through this video if you did. If you managed to stick through this stream of consciousness for the entire thing, thank you so much. Maybe you're helping me kind of work through my issues with the film, but it's appreciated. If you guys get a chance before you go, if you could slap that like button, subscribe if you want to see more of this crazy kind of these kind of reviews. So, well, take care.